Hello book people, P.T. Hylton here with a quick look at The Sculptor by Scott McCloud. This is a book that I've seen a couple really cool videos about lately. I know Amanda Eagle had one. Lindsay Ray was talking about this book as well. I'll link their videos below. But those are kind of the videos that pushed me over the edge to check this book out. Scott McCloud is the author of Understanding Comics, which I mentioned in my nonfiction book about books about comics video recently. This was published as a true graphic novel, published as one volume. And the art style is kind of a blue scale, which I very much like. The story, I don't want to go into too much because I definitely don't want to ruin anything, but let's just say it's about a guy who is a sculptor. He's in his 20s. His entire family, or at least his entire immediate family, has passed away, and he kind of is really living for his art, and he's willing to do anything to succeed in the sculpting area. And he makes a decision early on in the book that kind of drives the story and is all about how important the art is to him and what he's willing to give up for that art. This was, first of all, a very emotionally powerful book. It really affected me in a lot of ways, and make sure you read the afterword after you read it, because that affected me even more, just as much as the story. I'd say I was like, oh my goodness, when I learned a little bit more about where some of this came from. But also it deals with an issue that is very something that I struggle with and something important to me, which is the issue that as like a creative individual, someone who spends a lot of time creating stuff and thinking about creation and thinking about that kind of stuff. A lot of times I'm torn. Like a lot of times when I'm spending time with my family, I'm like mentally somewhat thinking about the book that I'm writing or whatever it happens to be at the time. And a lot of times I'm not present in the moment. So there's always that struggle of like, is it selfish to want to create stuff? What is the actual reason behind that drives us to create? And how much of ourselves should we dedicate to that, and how much of that shouldn't we? Obviously, there's something that I've thought about a lot, and I still struggle with. Like, I want to be there in the moment whenever I'm spending time with my family and my friends. They deserve, 100% of me for sure. At the same time, being creative is something that like invigorates me and makes me the best me that I can be. So I want to fulfill that so I can be a better father and husband and all that stuff too. So it's like the little tug of war there. And that is a theme that is very much a big part of The Sculptor. One criticism I've seen lobbed against the Sculptor is the female character in the book, the female lead, is just a kind of a manic pixie dream girl, which basically means she's a quirky young woman who doesn't exist as her own person with her own wants and needs and all that stuff, but she is just there to help the main character. And in these types of stories, it's often like a kind of serious, artistic young man. She's just there to teach him about the living life to the fullest. That's kind of the criticism, and that's you see that kind of character in a lot of movies. And I can see where that criticism comes from, especially in the early part of the book, that she does have a little bit of that, just being there to like help him experience more of life kind of thing. But I don't fully agree with that criticism, because I think as the book goes on, she definitely develops into a rounder character, a fuller character, and I think the book actually kind of addresses that head on, that whole thing about what is her role in his life, what is her purpose, and I think it does do a good job of drawing her as a full character. All in all, this is just a very fascinating book, a very emotionally powerful book, and I will say also from pure craft perspective, if you've read Understanding Comics and seen what Scott McCloud talks about in that book as far as like what is possible with the comic book medium and some of the techniques that drive home those things emotionally and all that stuff, you could see him put that exact stuff to masterful use in this. He is just a master of the form. Whether you love his artwork or don't, you have to admit, I think, that the way he uses it, the way he builds a page, the way he uses the space between panels, the way he constructs the story is just masterful. He is a master of the comic book medium. So great job, Scott McCloud. I give this 5 stars. I loved it. It's got this little quote from Neil Gaiman on the front. The best graphic novel I've read in years. I agree. It's a good book. So check it out. Beautiful, beautiful edition too. And I will say, very nice binding. Look at that. Look at that good binding. There it is, The Sculptor. I'll talk to you next time.